Hey there and welcome. Have you ever just stopped and thought about how our gigantic, incredibly complex world actually works? You know, how all these different pieces, from a simple chat with a friend to the entire global economy, somehow manage to fit together? Well, today we're going to dig into a really powerful theory that gives us a kind of map for exactly that.
Right, this is the big question, isn't it? I mean, it seems almost impossibly complicated. But the framework we're going to explore offers a surprisingly clean and, dare I say, elegant way to see the architecture of our social world. It's almost like getting an X-ray of society itself.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with a huge, fundamental split in how we see the world. Then, we'll zoom in on the self-steering systems. That's us. After that, we'll get to the absolute core, communication. We'll see how society is layered. And finally, we'll look at the specialized operating systems that run our modern world. Sound good? Let's go.
All right, let's jump right in. The very first step in this theory is to make a massive organizing cut, dividing pretty much everything in the world into two fundamentally different kinds of systems. This chart basically maps out the whole theory, and the most important thing to notice is that very first split right at the top. It divides the world into two basic categories: systems that get controlled from the outside and systems that, well, run themselves.
So, to make this super clear, holodynamic systems are things like, say, a car or a computer. They just sit there until an outside force, you, acts on them. But autodynamic systems are self-controlled. Think about a plant growing towards the sunlight, or your own body keeping its temperature just right. They follow their own internal rules to keep themselves going. And we humans, and the societies we built, we fall squarely into that second, much more complex category.
Okay, so let's put the machines and sculptures aside for a minute and really focus on that fascinating self-steering or autodynamic side of the map. This is where it gets really interesting for understanding ourselves.
Now, within these self-steering systems, the theory points out three different types. First, you've got your basic organic systems, like our bodies. But for what we're talking about today, society, the next two are absolutely crucial. Psychic systems, which is just a fancy way of saying our individual consciousness, and social systems, which is all about how we interact with each other.
And this brings us right to the heart of it all. What is the fundamental difference between how you think inside your own head and how society actually functions out in the world? Turns out, the answer is everything.
So your psychic system is your private, internal world. It's that nonstop river of thoughts, feelings, and ideas that makes you, you. It's where you process meaning. But here's the kicker. Nobody else can get in there. I have no idea what you're actually thinking unless you choose to share it.
Social systems, on the other hand, are completely different. They aren't made of thoughts. They're made of communication, the stuff we can actually see and hear. A social system pops into existence the second one person communicates something and another person understands it. It's what happens between us, not inside us.
Okay, so here's the mind-bending takeaway from all this. According to this theory, society isn't actually made of people. It's made of the endless chain of communications that connect all of us. Now, of course, people are essential. You can't have communication without consciousness. But the actual fabric of society, the thing itself, is woven from all that talking, writing, posting, and sharing.
So, if society is this giant fabric woven from communication, what does it actually look like? Well, it's not just some big, messy knot. It has a pretty clear structure with a few different levels.
We can break it down into three main layers. The smallest is interaction. That's just two or more people in a room talking. Simple enough. Then you scale up to organizations. These are built on communication that's structured by rules, like who's a member and who's not. Think of your job, a university, or a sports team. And finally, you have society itself, the biggest system of them all, the one that includes every single other communication happening on the entire planet.
And that brings us to the final and I think most powerful part of this map. How does our modern global society handle all this communication without just collapsing into chaos? Well, the answer is it specializes.
This part of the chart shows us the solution. Society splits itself up into what the theory calls function systems. And honestly, the best way to think about these is as society's dedicated operating systems. Each one is designed to solve one very specific kind of problem.
And these systems cover all the biggest parts of our lives. You've got the law system, which is only focused on what's legal versus illegal. The economy is only concerned with payments. Can you pay for it or not? Science only cares about what's true versus false. Each one is a huge ongoing network of communication, totally dedicated to its one unique job. And here's the key. They don't really speak each other's languages. Each system operates with its own unique code. For example, you can't just pay a scientist to make a theory true. That violates the code of science, right? And you can't vote to decide if a mathematical proof is correct. Each system has its own logic that works for its own purpose.
So, here's a final thought to leave you with. When you look at this map of society's operating systems, the economy, politics, education, art, which one of them shapes your daily life the most? Thinking about your own life through this lens, well, it can reveal a whole lot about how you fit into the giant, complex, and amazing structure of our shared world. Thanks so much for joining me.